Hi, I'm AuCièl Hicks, Political Correspondent for the Westchester Chronicle. Welcome to our 2024 Digital Candidate Forum. We invited every candidate on the ballot in Westchester to share with our community their plans in their own words. I spoke with the candidates that responded about their goals, plans, and priorities. We will air the interviews I conducted in ballot order. Thank you for joining us. Here is what they had to say. What is your name? Why are you running for this role? And what motivated you to enter this race?
Yeah, my name is Eugene DePasquale. I'm the Democratic nominee for Attorney General. And I decided to run because I thought, particularly in these partisan, polarized times, we needed an Attorney General who was prepared to be a balanced enforcer of justice, to someone who had a record of protecting Pennsylvanians, running a complicated state agency, and running complicated state investigations. And so when the Philadelphia Inquirer endorsed me in the primary and the general election, they said, particularly right now where people are so polarized, so partisan, someone that has a record of holding both sides accountable and going after bad actors is exactly what we need as an attorney general.
And why do you believe you are the best candidate for this role at this time?
Yeah, I think if you look at my record and what I've been able to do in protecting Pennsylvanians, it was my investigation had found over 3,000 untested rape kits. So working with survivors and law enforcement, I cleared that backlog and we got rapists off the street. It was my investigation that found 58,000 unanswered phone calls at the child abuse hotline. Any single one of those calls could have been life or death for a child. But I worked together with child protection workers all over the state, and we made sure our children were better protected. And I rooted out corruption in school districts and found through my investigations over $2 billion wasted by Harrisburg. So I use that professional experience along with my personal values. Look, I know struggle. My dad was wounded in Vietnam. He eventually became addicted to painkillers, started dealing, and received a 10.5 year federal prison sentence. So I've seen both sides of the the war on drugs. I've also seen both sides of the criminal justice system. Why we've got to do a better job of treating addiction like the disease it is. But I also know what it's like to struggle because my brother Anthony had muscular dystrophy, and because of that, we never had health insurance when we were kids. So I know exactly what is capable, what these corporations and insurance companies are capable of doing to people if given the chance. That's why, as Attorney General, I'm going to be the people's lawyer, looking out on behalf of average everyday Pennsylvanians. And also, look, we've got two children, Ben, who's 24, Sarah, who's 21. Sarah is our favorite childless cat lady. She is a senior at Temple University. But before we had Ben and Sarah, we had an ectopic pregnancy at week 10. That procedure now that saved Tracy's life and enabled us to still have kids is now illegal in 5 states. So I want to make it clear to everyone, I will never prosecute a woman for having an abortion. I'll never prosecute a doctor for performing one. And I will protect reproductive freedom, not only for the women of Pennsylvania, but for any woman coming here from one of those extremist laws as well.
And what would you say to voters who are undecided about supporting you?
Yeah, to any undecided voter, I would say, look at if you're undecided at this point, that you're probably not a partisan Democrat or partisan Republican. Well, that's exactly my wheelhouse because when I was Auditor General, I was tough and fair on a Republican governor and tough and fair on a Democratic governor. I have the record of holding bad actors accountable, but doing it in a nonpartisan way. I've also have a record of reform. I was the first legislator that posted my expenses online. I also was the first uh, person that passed an alternative energy bill helping tackle climate change. And as Auditor General, again, I ran a complicated state agency conducting tough statewide investigations that held bad actors accountable. And as Attorney General, I'll be the people's lawyer. I will, regardless of party, regardless of anything, I'll make sure average everyday Pennsylvanians have an Attorney General that's fighting for justice, protecting our communities, protecting reproductive freedom, and cracking down on these crooks that are trying to scam us every single day.
If elected, what is the first thing you would aim to do or to accomplish?
Well, the next Attorney General will likely be sworn in before the next president. So we've got to make sure that whoever wins Pennsylvania, that the voters pick, not the lawyers. So protecting the whole voting system is going to be job one. right away. Beyond that, it's about protecting communities, making sure we have safe streets. It's about protecting reproductive freedom, standing up to bullies, particularly anyone that's trying to bully our kids in schools, and also working together across party lines to make sure we crack down on these crooks trying to scam us. And particularly two particular issues that I want to look at. One is going to be our cost of prescription drugs, and also what social media companies are doing to our kids on mental health. We've got to address mental health. And the final point, we've got to get these illegal guns off the street. I want to work with prosecutors all across the state and all across the country to make sure we're tackling gun violence, but also the mental health crisis. Look, 2/3 of all firearm deaths in Pennsylvania are the result of suicide. We've got to make sure we're getting people the help they need.
And what is the one thing you most want people to remember about you as a candidate?
That I know struggle. That would be the number one thing I want people to know, that I know struggle. I know what it's like to have a dad incarcerated. I know what it's like to not have health insurance, to lose a brother because of muscular dystrophy. I know what it's like to be with a woman when she has to make that decision about her body and reproductive freedom. I know what it's like to still owe student loans. I know what it's like to struggle financially. And that's what people are going through every single day. That's exactly what I've gone through in my life. And those are the values I'll take with me as Attorney General.
All right. Lastly, is there anything specific you'd like to add or anything you want the people to know?
Hey, no matter who you vote for, I want people to vote. This is our democracy. When you don't vote, you give away your power. On election day, and of course, if you vote by mail and vote early, we all have that same power. One vote, we should all use it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Are you still there? Can you still hear me? I think we might have lost you. Hello?
Oh, yeah, I lost you. I think I lost you a little bit in the tunnel there. Sorry, but here I am.
Yeah, no problem. I think we got through the end of your response too, so that was perfect timing.
Perfect
I
timing,
was
right before the tunnel.
exactly. I was saying, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you so much. Have a great Halloween.
You as well. Happy Halloween.
Take care. Bye-bye.
What is your name? Why are you running for this role? And what motivated you to enter this race?
Sure. My name is Dave Sunday. I'm the elected district attorney in York, Pennsylvania. And so, by way of background, I grew up here in central Pennsylvania, and I was a bit of a wayward youth. I'll leave it at that. And I decided to join the military right out of high school. So I was 18. I was a young man. I was deployed all throughout the world. I went to the Persian Gulf. I did a lot of work in Central and South America, where my ship did counter drug operations, where we boarded drug runner ships to stop those drugs from coming up here to the United States. So I came home from the Navy and I started working at UPS. So I did my entire undergrad during the day, and I worked at UPS at night. And then I worked at UPS during the day while I went to law school at night. After that, I met my wife. So my wife, Lashani, is from Sri Lanka. She moved here when she was, I think, two years of age. She's a naturalized citizen. We have a son who is in fourth grade. And after I met my wife, I got a job as a law clerk for a judge in York County. I then went into the district attorney's office. And so I've been in the district attorney's office. I've been a prosecutor ever since, and I'm going into my 17th year in York. So, by way of background as well, I have spent my entire career in a courtroom as a prosecutor, dealing with everything um, from heroin trafficking to murders to attempted murders, to complex economic crime cases, to complex scams of senior citizens. Um, I've prosecuted people that have murdered children, and everything in between. For 4 of those years, I was a federal prosecutor, so I was a special appointed United States attorney, where we did large scale drug trafficking cases and gang cases in the Middle District Federal Court. We had a big gang called the Latin Kings that were trafficking heroin into York, and so we arrested and indicted 100 of them during the course of that operation. Not only have, that's my courtroom experience, but the reason I'm running for attorney general comes back to some of the things I've seen with regard to work we can do to prevent crime. And so, to begin with, we have a severe, I'm sure you know, opioid epidemic in Pennsylvania. I've been working on this for 10 years, where we've done everything we can because York County, we're directly north of Baltimore. And so because of that, Baltimore for many, many years was considered the heroin capital of the United States. And so we had heroin flowing into our community. And so we did everything we could to get drug traffickers. But at the same time, and just as important, we've done everything we can to help get people into treatment. And so we started a nonprofit called the York Opioid Collaborative, where we work with schools, we work with parents, the faith-based community, other nonprofits, service providers, and do everything we can to decrease barriers to treatment for individuals that are suffering from substance abuse disorder. That's something that needs to be done all over Pennsylvania. We have to have an all hands on deck approach to this. I mean, when I was a kid, and I feel that I'm without question much older than you, but when I was a kid, if you made a mistake, you might not feel well for a day, right? You might, but you can recover. In today's world, and this isn't hyperbole, the reality is children, teenagers can make mistakes that result in death. I've seen people die from fentanyl overdoses, marijuana that was laced with fentanyl, and everything in between. So, in addition to that, we have a severe mental health crisis in Pennsylvania. And I've dedicated many, many years of my career to that issue where we've done everything we can to help get people into mental health treatment. A third part of this, and I know this is a long answer, by the way, but I'm going to cover a lot of things here. The third part of this is, when I told you I worked at UPS, and when I worked there, I worked every day with people that made, some mistakes earlier in their life, and they did everything they could to account for those. I call it accountability and redemption is what I call it. And so some people have come back from prison, and people have jobs and they succeed, and you can see a sense of self-worth, and they take care of their families and they take care of the communities around them. And so I never forgot that. And so and this is coming from a prosecutor who spent years in a courtroom putting people in prison. I can tell you right now that 95% of everyone that goes to prison comes back out. 95%. And if we really want to make our community safe, we want those people to be successful. And so as Attorney General, you can have a huge role in that, in policy issues such as that, where we help to build reentry coalitions like we've done in York. We have a reentry opportunity center in our prison where people can start doing job interviews prior to even leaving prison. And this is how you do it. So when you look at this holistic approach, we've lowered our crime rate by 41% from the 10-year high. And that's one of the largest DA's offices in Pennsylvania. And so these are just some of the issues. At the end of the day, for me, it comes down to this. If our community is not safe, nothing else matters. Economic development doesn't happen. Children can't learn in school if they don't live in safe communities. And I have come to this belief through all of my years of being a prosecutor, prior to that being in the military and working at UPS. And so I'm running because I want the world to be better for my son when he's older, and that's what has brought me to this. For me, this is mission based. It's not about a title. I'm not running for other offices. For me, this solely comes down to making sure that we do everything in our power to have safe communities for our friends, our families, our colleagues, and our children. And so that's why I'm running.
I think there's a little bit of a lag again, but it's okay. We'll work with it. Why do you believe you're the best candidate for this role at this time?
Sure. Well, there's multiple reasons, but to start with, very simply, the Attorney General is Pennsylvania's chief law enforcement officer, and that's by statute. So, as I'm sure you know that, every government position has a statute somewhere that dictates what that job is. And so the Attorney General is Pennsylvania's top prosecutor. Right now, with the threats that our children face, everything, and I covered this from fentanyl all the way through what's happening online. I mean, I've seen behind the curtain on this, and I can tell you that there is not a moment where kids aren't connecting to the internet right now in today's world, where someone is not trying to potentially groom them. I mean, this is through everything from gaming systems, social media, through just being on the internet generally. And so these are huge threats facing Pennsylvanians. And in addition to that, we have the second highest amount of senior citizens, I think, in the country in Pennsylvania. And the same thing is happening to them, where every day, relentlessly, people are trying to steal the money that they've earned in their life, potentially to hurt them physically. And so when you look at those issues we're facing, combined with the fact that the Attorney General is the top prosecutor, I'm the only candidate running for Attorney General that has literally ever been a prosecutor. Um, the basic, the basic requirement is you have to be a barred lawyer. Um, but to that point, my opponent has never been in a courtroom. He's never tried a case. He's never led a criminal investigation, and complex criminal investigations are vastly different than any other type of investigation because you're utilizing grand juries, you're utilizing law enforcement, you have the power to take people into custody. And so to that point, when you look at the issues that Pennsylvanians are facing, combined with what the role of the Attorney General is, I think that it is that I am overwhelmingly the best choice for Pennsylvanians right now to be the Attorney General of Pennsylvania.
And what would you say to voters who are undecided about supporting you?
I would say very simply that, there's a lot of things in life that we can fix. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you have a law that people don't like, they can fix that. Our legislature can change that. If there's a civil matter that needs to be remedied, the courts can fix that. But from what I have seen in life, um, and this again as a prosecutor in a courtroom, is that there's some things you can't fix. And for example, when people die from overdoses, when people have serious bodily injury or die from violent crimes, you can't fix that. And so when we look at the basic needs of our world around us, if we can't keep our communities safe, then why are we here? And so to that point, I have committed my professional career to fighting crime. I have, in York County as a district attorney, we've prosecuted over 40,000 criminal cases since I've been elected, with a conviction rate that hovers near 97%. We have lowered our homicide rate by 75% from 2022 to 23. Our gang gun violence rate is down 80% during that same time period, and our overdose deaths are down 26%, whereas they've gone up 15% around the rest of the state. And so, to anyone who's undecided in this race, I would ask for your vote, and I would tell you that a vote for Dave Sunday is a vote for safe communities.
If elected, what's the first thing you would aim to do or accomplish?
I mean, the very first thing that I would do is jump right into the work that we've just talked about so far in this interview. I mean, what can we do statewide to keep children safe from fentanyl? What can we do right away statewide to protect senior citizens from being scammed? What can we do to utilize the resources of the Attorney General's office to collaborate with police, to collaborate with communities, to collaborate with the faith-based communities? One of our closest partners in my world are the Black Ministers Association in the city of York. And so we collaborate together nonstop on issues facing our community. And I'll do those exact same things statewide. These are very complex, difficult issues that we're talking about today. These aren't issues that you can say you fixed in a day. That's not how this works. And in today's world, people really desire instant gratification. And so when we talk about big societal issues like mental health, like substance abuse, issues, online with online predators, things of that nature, these are things that you have to have the courage to put the time in to work on. And these are things I've worked on my entire career. And so on day one, I will, God willing, I'm the Attorney General. I will sit down with my team and we'll discuss ways in which we can collaborate together to make Pennsylvania safe.
What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you as a candidate?
I want them to remember that I am the one thing I would say that, I mean, I guess it kind of comes together, but I'm a father and I'm a husband. And that's the most important part of my entire life, who happens to also be a prosecutor. And so it's through that lens that I'm approaching this job because I know that, again, I go back to it. If our families aren't safe, nothing else matters. And I'm the candidate that will fight for that.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else specific you'd like to say or anything you want the people to know?
I think that, I mean, we've covered a lot. I mean, I we've
Mm,
we've covered a lot of ground here. I mean, now you're asking a guy running for office if there's anything else I want to say, so you have to be careful what you
mm,
what what you ask for. But very simply, no, honestly, this is the honor of my lifetime running for Attorney General. Um, I cannot tell you the gratitude that I have for this entire process. I'm the eternal optimist, and I firmly believe that there's so much more that brings us together as a society than could tear us apart. I think that our best days are ahead. I'm excited about collaborating with everyone. Politics cannot play a role in this office. Just like as a district attorney, politics don't even come through the door, and it can never be that way. And so something I want people to take away as well is the fact that I approach this job in an absolute non partisan manner, and I never have. Or that's the way I've always approached this job. And so when you talk about public safety and when you talk about enforcing the rule of law, you have to remove politics from it. And so to that point, I'm just excited. I'm excited to be the attorney general, and I'm so grateful that you took the time to interview me today. And happy Halloween, by the way. Happy
happy
Halloween.
Halloween. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. We're honored to speak with you as well.
Awesome. Well, have a wonderful day, and hopefully you'll get out to vote on November 5th.
Definitely. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
What is your name? Why are you running for this role? And what motivated you to enter this race?
Well, thank you for taking the time. My name is Representative Malcolm Kenyatta. I'm running to be Pennsylvania's next Auditor General. And I'm running for a really simple reason. I believe that government should actually work and that it should work for working people and working families. I grew up in a working poor family in North Philly. My dad was a social worker. My mom was a home health aide. They separated when I was young. So I got my first job at 12 years old, washing dishes at a little restaurant. But I buried both of my parents by the time I was 27 because they didn't have access to the type of healthcare everybody deserves. I only had healthcare as a kid because of a program called CHIP. My family needed to put our names on that long list for affordable housing, needed access on many days to food stamps to keep food on the table. And so I tell you this to make the point that for so many working and middle class families, whether or not government works and it makes the best use of our tax dollars is not a hypothetical intellectual concern. It's a real concern that impacts people in measurable material ways. And the Auditor General, if the position is used appropriately, can be in a position to ensure that A, people's tax dollars aren't being utilized in ways they should not be, but that B, that the dollars that are being used of our money that's being spent in our name, that money is actually going to make things better for us. And there are so many families who it's not just a nice to have, but it's a necessity. And after over a half decade in Harrisburg, I feel like I'm more than ready to take on this responsibility to ensure that government works for middle class and working class families like mine.
And why do you believe you are the best candidate for this role at this time?
This is one of those moments where it's crystal clear that more than ever, we need people who are laser focused on making government work for us. I will tell you, being in Harrisburg for over a half a decade, you see that a lot of times there are more lobbyists in the building than legislators. And this will not shock folks who watch this to know that they are often not there asking how to make life better for you. They're there asking how do we make things even better for folks who are well off and well connected, who are frankly doing just fine. I've spent time on over half a decade, as I said, on the Finance Committee overseeing Pennsylvania's tax laws and was darn proud to fight for the single largest tax cut in over a decade for our seniors, for our small businesses. I serve on the Commerce Committee, which oversees Pennsylvania's economic development. I have led the charge on the types of good government reforms that allow the state to recoup state grants and funds that are not used appropriately. Very much the same types of things that I would be focused on as Auditor General. And so in me, you have somebody who understands Harrisburg, who understands how our state budget works, who has a detailed experience working with the state's fiscal policy, voting on, amending, debating how the state appropriates $43 billion plus that we spend every year. And I have a real record of standing up for working people and working families. And I think that's why we've been able to build such a broad and diverse coalition. I mean, my campaign has been endorsed by Republicans, by Democrats, by organizations representing law enforcement, by first responders. And I think all of that is a reflection of the fact that in Harrisburg, I've always been focused not on how people are registered to vote, but whether or not folks are doing right by working people and working families, irrespective of their party registration. That's the type of Auditor General that I'm going to be. Tough, fair, and somebody who's laser focused on the pain points that middle class and working families are experiencing every single day.
And what would you say to voters who are undecided about supporting you?
You know, what I would say is, look at my record of cutting taxes for small business and seniors, of being on the front lines of ensuring that we did pass the single largest investment in K through 12 education in Pennsylvania history. I'm somebody who has built a coalition that is diverse. And I think when you think about who you want to support in this last crunch, look at the people who are supporting my campaign. When you are able to build a campaign that includes support that's bipartisan, that's deep, that's broad, and when you have somebody in me who has traveled to every single county to campaign in this race, revisiting all those counties, by the way, I think it drives home my commitment to stand up for all of our families and to be laser focused on ensuring we have government services that deliver for us, and ensuring that there is a watchdog for working people and working families. My opponent has repeatedly politicized this office. He has talked a lot about his experience, and it's bad experience. The two major audits that he did on school fund balances and on pharmacy benefit managers, again, I want to be very clear, not Malcolm's opinion on what I'm about to say next. These are what experts in the field have said on his school fund balance audit. Nonpartisan experts in school funding called his audit clumsy, said that his audit showed he did not have an understanding of the topics that he was talking about. In the pharmacy benefit managers audit that he did, experts said that he was not using critical definitions correctly, and it showed that he did not have an understanding of the subject matter that was in front of him. I, on the other hand, worked in a bipartisan way. Look it up, House Bill 1993. The third name on that bill is Malcolm Kenyatta, to provide common sense reform to our pharmacy benefit managers, to keep more of our small pharmacies open, and to expand opportunities for us to lower costs for people and their prescription drugs. And I think it's because of my serious substantive vision for rebuilding the Bureau of School Audits that was shut down under the current Auditor General, to build the first of its kind Bureau of Labor and Worker Protections to ensure that we're enforcing our labor laws. And because of the deep relationships and connections and understanding of what happens in Harrisburg, of all what goes into our budget process, I am, I think, uniquely qualified and prepared to walk into this role and get real results for working people and working families. And I think that is indicative of the broad coalition that we have been able to assemble of Republicans, organizations representing law enforcement, first responders, and the Philadelphia Inquirer, who also endorsed my campaign. This is the type of campaign that we're running, where we're leaving nobody behind. where we are focused on families that need us to be focused on them. And I'm going to do everything in my power, as I have as a legislator in Harrisburg, to make sure that your tax dollars are actually working for you, that they're being utilized in ways that are legal, and that the programs that we fund result in real positive outcomes for the people of Pennsylvania. We deserve a government that's as good as our people. And I'm going to fight every single day to make sure that's a reality.
If elected, what is the first thing you aim to accomplish?
So the first thing we have to do is to rebuild the Bureau of School Audits. The only major policy decision the current Auditor General has done was to shut down the Bureau of School Audits, meaning we are no longer conducting annual compliance audits of our schools. That is wrong. It was a tragic decision, and it was one that was met rightfully with uproar. I'm going to reverse that decision on day one and get back to the business of making sure that the historic funding that I was a part of appropriating, that those dollars result in a real return for our young people. It's not just the right thing to do morally to make sure all of our kids are getting a quality education. It's the right thing to do for our economy. It's the right thing to do for our future. And it's what I'm going to prioritize in the first 100 days.
What is the one thing you want people to most remember about you as a candidate?
You know, that in me, you have somebody who brings a variety of different experience to this role. I came to the legislature by way of working at the Greater Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce, where I worked with micro businesses, mom and pop businesses, up to the largest corporations in Pennsylvania and frankly in the world. And I came into the legislature with a key understanding that the decisions we make, it really matters to folks. If you were waiting to get unemployment insurance during the height of the pandemic, 2 and 3 and 4 weeks, in some instances, months, you know that it matters if you have a government that works. You know it, you feel it. I grew up in a family where every single day, even with a mom who worked as a CNA, certified nursing aide, working with folks who had really significant physical limitations, mental health challenges, she would still have to come home and ration her insulin. She'd still have to sit us down, as she did multiple times, and say, I'm sorry, baby, we're not able to stay here anymore because we can't afford the rent. For so many working class families, we don't have people in government who get it. They don't get the middle class families who are hanging on by their fingernails, who are one car repair, one health issue, one unexpected situation away from being knocked down. We deserve a government that's focused on us. And we are lucky to have a position called Auditor General that, when used appropriately, is about ensuring our dollars are producing results for us. And so in me, you have somebody who has a deep understanding of how Harrisburg works, a deep background in advocating and fighting for sensible budgets that make life better for our families. And also in me, you have somebody who has laid out a real vision of in a nonpartisan way of getting things done, holding government accountable, demanding common sense solutions. That's why I've been endorsed by Republicans, by Democrats, by organizations representing law enforcement, by first responders, because they know my record, they know my commitment to working class and middle class families, and they know that I'm best prepared to provide the type of leadership and vision that has been sorely missing in this office.
All right. And lastly, before we go, is there anything else you'd like to add, or anything else you want people to know?
No, I just will thank you for the opportunity, and ask everybody who's watching. I'm Representative Malcolm Kenyatta, and I'm humbly asking for your vote to be your next Auditor General, to be a watchdog for you, for your tax dollars, and for your family.
All right, Malcolm, thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anytime. Take care of yourself. Have a great day.
What is your name? Why are you running for this role? And what motivated you to enter this race?
My name is Tim DeFoor. Last name is spelled DeFoor. I'm the current Auditor General seeking re-election for a second term. And what inspired me to run for this office is that I have a unique set of experiences throughout my life. And the unique set of experiences is I've done one thing in my career, and that was to audit and investigate fraud, waste, and abuse in government and people dealing with government. And that's pretty much all I wanted to do. And I've done that on a county level, state level, federal level, but also in the private sector. And I'm running for this office because I actually care about government. And if you look at my career, it shows it. And with my unique set of experiences, I believe that I could really make a difference with how government functions. And if there's any way that I can improve government, then I have the ability to do that because of my unique set of experiences. But I also care about the community as a whole. I care about financial literacy, been an advocate for that. But also I want to give experiences and opportunities to individuals who are graduating from college who may not have had an opportunity to come work for a place like the Department of the Auditor General. So I'm running, for three reasons. One, because I actually care about the work. Two, I want to be pretty much a statesman and doing things out in the community, but also helping prepare the next generation by providing opportunities to young individuals who didn't think that they would have an opportunity to work for a place such as the Department of Auditor General.
And why do you believe you're the best candidate for this role at this time?
Because of my experiences. And as I said just a few minutes ago, I've audited and investigated fraud, waste, and abuse on the on the county level, state level, federal government, and in the private sector. I was also a certified internal auditor and also a certified healthcare fraud examiner. So because of my experiences, what I've done not only as an auditor, but also as an investigator, I believe that I'm uniquely qualified to fill this role. I mean, I've investigated not only things internally to help make whatever department or corporation that I work for, or whatever part of government that I work for to help improve government, but also to audit those to make sure that they're doing right by government and that they're not abusing and wasting taxpayer dollars, and that the programs that are being sponsored by taxpayer dollars, making sure that they work as well.
And what would you say to voters who are undecided about supporting you?
Look at my experience. Look at my experience. Understand what the roles and the duties of the Auditor General are. And granted, there aren't a lot of people that do. But the one thing that we have today that they didn't have when I was growing up was you have your cell phones, where you could easily just Google a person's name and just do research on them. And so I would ask people who are undecided about me to simply look at my experiences, look at what I've done in office, but also look at what I've done in my prior career. There's several people who are running for this position. To simply take away the names, the political affiliation, and just look at the experiences. And if you had to hire someone to do the job, who would you hire? What kind of person would you hire?
Can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
Okay. If you are elected, what is the first thing you'd aim to do or to accomplish?
The first thing I would aim to do is just pretty much what we've done in the first term, and we've transformed the I'm sorry, someone's calling. We've transformed. Can you hear me? That again. I don't know what's going on.
It's okay. Technology, right?
Yeah.
I said if elected or reelected, excuse me, what's the first thing you'd aim to do or accomplish?
Pretty much just what we've built on. We've changed the culture of the department, first with our employees, providing the tools that they need in order to do the job, and helping them if they want to become a certified public accountant, if they want to continue their education, And if they wanted some other types of training, we provided that to them. We provided them the tools in which they needed to do their job. But we've also changed how we go about performing our audits. As opposed to performing an audit where you place blame and attack somebody, we've looked at the issues and audit based on the issues and come up with a common sense approach on how to fix those problems. So, and there's a lot that we've done. So probably just build on a lot of the things that we've already done that first term. And one of the things that we're looking to do that is a bit different is create a forensic audit section. Right now, there's this gray area between what is fraud and what is just an error. That gray area is getting bigger. So we need to come up with a forensic audit section to clearly identify those instances where fraud has been committed. And then we would then send those over to law enforcement. But it's pretty much just a continuation of what we've done within the department, where we've changed the culture, and we want that culture shift to then be ingrained as part of the ongoing culture of the department, not only for this administration, but for administrations to come.
What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you as a candidate?
As a candidate, that I actually cared about the position, and that and if you look at what I've done, and both in the office, and look at what I've done outside the office, that I'm not a typical politician. I'm not the kind of person who attends political rallies. I'm not the kind of person who is using this as a political stepping stone. I'm an auditor, and an auditor who has done this job for quite some time. And if there's one thing I want the voters to remember, is just to remember that I actually am an auditor, and I'm running the office in the way that the department should be run, in the way that a traditional auditor would in fact run it.
All right. And last question, is there anything else you'd like to add, or anything specific you want people to know?
No, just vote. I mean, vote your interest. Vote your interest, but also look at the candidates. Look at the people who are running for office. When I first started to vote, the League of Women Voters used to come out with and this is way before you had all the technology that you have now. The League of Women Voters used to come out with their voter guide, and it was always in the newspaper. And then so I would base who I was voting for based on what I read in the League of Women Voters voter guide. And so I would do my research on the candidates. And so I would ask anybody who's going to watch this, that's what you do. You research the candidates and understand the positions that they're running for. Not all the positions are the same. The row offices, the Attorney General, the Treasurer, and the Attorney General are different from the legislature, different from judicial, different from the governor's races, different from the Senate races and the presidential races. We do something uniquely different. So just understand that, and then research the people running for office, and vote your interest.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for your time, Tim.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Sorry for the mix-up. I don't know what in the world happened.
I am technology. It's
Yeah, that is
great, and it's the worst.
How about that. But thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
What is your name? Why are you running for this role? And what motivated you to enter this race?
So my name is Erin McClelland, and I am the Democratic nominee for Pennsylvania State Treasurer. I am running for this office because I think for the 21st century vision of it, there's so much more that we could do beyond the basic operations that we've always seen a treasurer do. So I've campaigned heavily on all the things that we can do outside the normal day-to-day stuff that we're seeing, and some really urgent problems that I think that we can address with the treasurer's office.
And why do you believe you're the best candidate for this role at this time?
Because I have a vision for it, a very expansive vision that is going to do a lot more outside the office than we've ever seen a treasurer do. Cybersecurity is a huge problem in the state of Pennsylvania and throughout the country. The number of attacks that we've seen just in the past year, considering the Municipal Water Authority of Aliquippa was hacked by Iran, Chester lost $400,000 in a phishing scheme, the Washington County entire government infrastructure was shut down for weeks on end due to a ransomware attack that cost them $350,000. This is going unchecked. And the National Association of State Treasurers has said that each treasurer runs a cybersecurity program that protects Pennsylvanians' $163 billion. There's no reason we can't use those resources and that sophistication to help our 2,559 municipalities build the same level of sophistication and protect themselves. Our current treasurer hasn't taken that charge on. I'm looking forward to doing it.
And what would you say to voters who are undecided about supporting you?
Sure. I would say that if you don't know what the treasurer has done, it's probably because it hasn't really come across your kitchen table the way it should. And the things that I'm going to be doing are going to hit you at your kitchen table. They're going to affect cybersecurity in your municipalities, protecting your 911 systems, your school districts, your water supply. In addition to that, we're going to really look at foreign investments in our pension funds. Right now we have a current treasurer that is doing a lot with foreign investments that I don't think are safe or secure, particularly a deal she cut with Bank of New York Mellon to invest in the Saudi Arabian stock exchange. I believe that we need to be investing our state funds here at home in our companies and our municipalities and our workers. So that's another thing I want to change. Third, that $163 billion that we have in our coffer means that Pennsylvanians own stock in pretty much every publicly traded company out there. Now that gives us a stock vote, a shareholder vote. Right now, we are not using that shareholder engagement program to leverage to make sure we get more value for the taxpayers of Pennsylvania. We could be using that vote to get pharmaceutical companies to stop price gouging our seniors. There's a lot we can do to affect real civil regard and social support from our corporations if we were to actually take that seat at the table and vote in the interest of Pennsylvanians, and that's not happening right now.
And if elected, what is the first thing you'd aim to do or to accomplish?
Yeah, the first thing we have to do is start that cybersecurity program. The second thing we need to do is the workers in the treasurer's office are owed back pay by the treasurer, and that hasn't been paid. They got COVID money that they were supposed to get. So we want to make sure that that debt is paid. Third thing we want to do is a full audit of the teacher's pension. This is a fund that was investigated by the Department of Justice. It was privatized in 2019. What we do know is the legislature for years did not pay their obligation. They have an annual required contribution that wasn't contributed. I want to calculate what that is, put it on the pension fund's balance sheet with interest so we know exactly how much money our retirees are owed. And then we have to look at the withdrawal liability that every time a charter school closes, we still have a pension debt to those workers who were enrolled in that system, but nobody's paying into it. And that debt keeps increasing and that liability keeps getting worse. We don't see anybody dealing with that. So that's another top priority that I'm going to have to deal with in the teacher's pension fund. And then finally, like I said, stopping these foreign investments that are not appropriate at a state level.
What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you as a candidate?
That I took the work outside that I saw a vision to take the work outside the office. I found real mechanisms that we can use to affect municipalities and government at the local level. I live in a class 1 township, and I always say, I'm not going right, I'm not going left, I'm going local. I think that the position of treasurer has been highly politicized in the past 3 years. I don't agree with that. This is not a political position. This is somebody that needs to be an honest broker that serves as a watchdog, protecting the people. It is the sweat of the brows of the workers of Pennsylvania that fill that coffer, not Donald Trump, not Wall Street banks. And we shouldn't be acquiescing to their needs. We should be protecting the people. So I hope that when my campaign is over, people say this was somebody that didn't cater to any elected official, any political party, or any special interest. I was looking out for the needs of the people and the most urgent problems that I think we can solve in this treasurer's office. And that's what I talked about. And that's the campaign I ran.
Right. And lastly, is there anything else specific you'd like to share, or anything you want the people to know?
No, like I said, my biggest thing is I just think there's so much more we can do with this office. In addition to the many things that I've already talked to you about, we see a push for more community banking throughout the nation. And we know that the Biden administration created a community banking program through the FDIC. And we only have 3 minority deposit institutions in the entire state of Pennsylvania, and they're all in the Southeast. Now, the FDIC program offers money and framework to capitalize those small community banks, which we lost after the savings and loan crisis. So I think that there's an opportunity to have conversations on localized banking, getting away from more commercialized Wall Street focused banks and serving the people. There's also a national conversation on public banking. We've already seen the city of Philadelphia do a feasibility study. There's a lot of interest throughout the nation, and our current treasurer does not think that that's part of her job to help talk through that process and see if it's even viable. I look forward to really diving into that. I've already talked to a lot of the public banking folks throughout the state as well as nationally about the work that they're doing, which is really insightful and innovative. So there's a lot that I want to do that I think is very visionary, very outside the box, and is going to be really, really exciting. And it's going to put Pennsylvania on the map and the forefront to how we actually do municipal banking for our municipalities, how we do cyber, how we do shareholder engagement.
Great. Thank you so much. That was great. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
What is your name? Why are you running for this role, and what motivated you to enter this race?
My name's Neil Young, and what motivated and why I entered, it's probably the same answer, I guess. I'm a public school teacher, have been for 22 years, and my motivation primarily is believing that we can do more to help serve all of our students from an educational standpoint. So a lot of it has to do with not just making sure that our schools improve, but seeing that the exact opposite is happening. We're seeing an erosion of even academic performance and what we're holding our kids to. But also, there's, to some degree, I want students to understand that our government is only as good as the people who serve in office. And so some of it's a future inspiration. It's time. I don't want to say it's time to turn over leadership, but it's time to it's time to engage a younger generation in politics and helping them understand they deserve a seat at the table as well. So I think teachers deserve a seat at the table. I think young people deserve a seat at the table. That's how we best serve, the diverse voices in our country.
And why do you believe you're the best candidate for this role at this time?
I believe I'm the best candidate for this role because, again, it's not even about a stagnant neutrality. It's about we're moving backwards. Our students, our schools are failing at a higher rate and degree than they ever have. There's, the federal government is mandating some really pretty divisive sort of principles that are finding their way into schools, and I don't see a better way. Number one, I don't see my opponent protecting and standing for some of the things that I would stand for, and some of that could be ignorance. Some of that could be we differ, sort of philosophically, and some of it could be that unless you're in the classroom, you don't understand. Politicians tend to they tend to ignore the voice of the future because oftentimes they don't vote, and they're also not deep-pocketed donors. And so I think I am, because I've been in the trenches for 22 years, and I see that even students, whether they agree or disagree, young people, whether they agree or disagree with maybe where they see I am now politically, they don't feel well represented.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Okay. What would you say to voters who are undecided about supporting you?
Well, the first thing I would say is please vote. Whether you're undecided about me or any other candidate, please vote. I have somebody sent me one of their ballots the other day, and they had everybody from me on it to Cornell West to, I mean, they were all over the place. So please vote, no matter if you think somebody represents you precisely. But more than that, it was apparent that this person, and I would say this to anybody else, do your homework. There's more. There's a lot of ways to get the information, but what we have to do is slow down, take the time, and make sure that we understand where everybody is on all of the issues, and make sure that we, because really, it's about, number one, what are the issues? What are the top whatever issues you want to say facing our nation? What are the solutions to those issues? And then how does each candidate prioritize, those issues? That's really where you're going to find the candidate that's going to most represent you. That's what I would encourage people to do.
And if you are elected, what is the first thing you aim to accomplish?
Well, I want to. The first thing I aim to accomplish is really getting on educational committees. That where my expertise can really be harnessed. There's a whole lot that you have to learn. And I expect to learn from the people that are there. But the first thing that I want to really I really want to strive hard to do is make sure that there's complete transparency between what is going on in our public schools and what is and how we are or not best serving our kids, and ensuring that our parents or guardians as stakeholders in the process are well informed. And so in terms of legislation, I think that looks like really ensuring that we've got a clear understanding, maybe whether it's a Bill of Rights, but we have a clear understanding of what the role of school is, what the role of parents are, and how we both can work together to best serve kids.
What is the one thing you would like people to most remember about you as a candidate?
That I'm somebody who is, no matter what decision I make, whether people agree with it or not only as a candidate, but perhaps as a legislator in the future, that I make it understanding that I'm deeply rooted and connected in this community that I'm serving, and that I'm bound and maybe would even suffer under poor leadership decisions, and therefore motivated to ensure that all of our communities within Chester and Berks County improve, to the degree that I have control over that, but would improve as a result of being represented by somebody who is really deeply entrenched in community here.
And is there anything else specific you'd like to add or that you want the people to know?
Well, I mean, again, this is the two things. Number one, we've got the freest and most accessible form of government the world has ever known. So everybody, I want to challenge everybody, play your part, play your role, whatever that is. Some people it's put a yard sign up. Some people it's talk to their friends. Some people it's throw your hat in the ring. Maybe you're a good candidate. Don't assume somebody else is going to do it. And then the second is, when we stop looking to the 1% of the 1% who actually run for office, and start looking over the array of talents that we have, in this community and in this country, we're going to get better representation. And so we will only be as great of a nation as those who occupy our offices. So again, the same thing, challenge to what's your role, what's your part? I want you to play it.
Awesome.
And that includes you. That includes you too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's all we had. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Anytime. I appreciate it. And, great meeting you. Best of luck in the future. And hopefully we'll talk soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
What is your name? Why are you running for this role? And what motivated you to enter this race?
Thank you. I'm State Senator Carolyn Comitta, and I am running for re-election to the Pennsylvania Senate for District 19, where I have served for the past 4 years. Prior to that, I was a member of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, representing the Westchester area. Before that, mayor of Westchester and borough council member. And so I am running for re-election this year so that I can continue serving our Chester County community and put to work the experience, the relationships, and all of the effort that I have put in over the last 20 years to address some of the most pressing issues of our time.
Why do you believe you're the best candidate for this role at this time?
As I mentioned, this is 2025 would be my 20th year serving as an elected public servant. Having had the experience in local government, then as mayor for 2 terms, first woman elected mayor of Westchester in 210 years, which is sort of crazy. And also the first and only so far bipartisan elected mayor of Westchester, and then serving in the House and now the Senate. My experience has allowed me to build relationships with people all across the Commonwealth and in our community, to be able to, and also develop trusted relationships where I am able to help frame an issue, convene the public conversation with diverse voices, and work together to find solutions to the challenges that we face, both at the Commonwealth and then also for working in our local communities and our families.
What would you say to voters who are undecided about supporting you?
I would say, give me a call, reach out to me. You can check my campaign website. I would love to talk with anyone who has any questions, always, whether I am your senator or I am your candidate. And I would say take a look at take a look at the things that I've been working on all of these years. If you are an environmental champion, as I am, if you care about full and fair funding for our public schools, as I am, I was also a public school teacher. If you care about strengthening our gun safety laws, if you care about protecting LGBTQ rights, if you care about protecting all reproductive health care access, if you care about working together to help identify the challenges and opportunities in our communities, that is what I bring to the table. And I hope that I would earn your vote so that we could work together and make our communities even better and improve people's lives, especially for our children.
And if reelected, what is the first thing you'd aim to accomplish?
I am the chair of the Senate Environmental Resources and Energy Committee. And one of the things that I have been doing for the last my entire life as an environmental champion is focusing on shaping a healthy future for our children in all of the aspects that I mentioned. But from the environmental aspect, what I have done and I will continue to do is to work diligently to make sure that in all aspects we are following Pennsylvania's Environmental Rights Amendment, which is not a suggestion, it is a mandate. And so as a chair of the Senate Environmental Resources and Energy Committee, what I will do is continue the work I have been doing, investing in clean energy and strengthening our energy grid, lowering utility costs, ensuring that every Pennsylvanian has access to clean air, clean water, and affordable water and sewer, which is a big issue in my district.
What is the one thing you would most want people to remember about you as a candidate?
I hope that people would remember that I care and that I am always here for you. This is what I have devoted my my public career to, whether it was teaching, working at the United Nations with a non-governmental organization focused on health and environment, an educational NGO, serving locally and now in the legislature. And as a teacher, I care about people. I care about doing what I can to bring people together, to find solutions. And I hope that number one, people would remember that I care about you and that I'm always here for you.
Great. And is there anything else you want to say or that you want people to know?
Make sure that you vote on November 5th. Polls open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And remember, as the League of Women Voters say, your vote is your voice. And one of our most important fundamental freedoms is the freedom to vote. And it is also our responsibility. So that is my final message. Please vote on November 5th.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, and take good care.
You as well.
Thank you.
This has been our 2024 Digital Candidate Forum. Thank you to all the candidates that participated. For continued updates and news about the election, you can follow us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and make sure to tune in with us live on Facebook this upcoming Tuesday, as we will be bringing you live Election Day coverage. And if you want to support local news so we can provide you with more content like this, please consider supporting us on Patreon. You can find the link in the description below. Remember, the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on this Tuesday, November 5th. If you want more information, click the link tree in the description below. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found this as informative as we did. Thank you for your time, have a great day, and don't forget to vote. I'm AuCièl Hicks from the Westchester Chronicle.